and one YouTube. One Facebook, two, three. Just waiting on YouTube. Okay, so we're live on YouTube, live on Facebook. A special Sunday night edition. We got 2 comments in the chat. Let's see what we got. Wait. All right. Denise and Jed. All right, yeah. Okay, so we're good. All right, let me just turn on the intro, and then 1 minute 19 seconds later, we'll pull up here and we'll have a good conversation. Yeah. Let's see. Let's get this thing cleared up and get McManus up here, our dear brother who's been coming on for a couple of years. All right, we had some really interesting shift happen, and Denise Chadwick, Ivania Bartholomew's, Morgan Lee, Todd Medina, and somebody else I can't remember. A bunch of stuff's starting to correlate and align and come together. Welcome everybody in the Zoom room. Let me just get me set up here. All right, hang on. Oh, you got it. You got it?
Yep.
What's up, brother? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I think you really said it. There's a lot of shift going on, and it is fabulous. I'm really particularly liking the point that the work that we've collectively and individually and within our groups have been doing is like coming to physical fruition. And yeah, we're definitely not in Kansas anymore, and I'm really loving that because yeah, everything has just felt so stale coming from like what our soul needs to have to experience to grow and feel fulfilled and feel satisfied with living a human life. And we're firmly in those new experiences, in that territory with those new experiences that give our soul new life, new wings. And yeah, it's exhilarating. I'm just sitting here dancing and
it is exciting. It is exciting. You got that polarity running out there that's with this whatever, this virus. And I know there's people that are going through it, and I don't understand it all, how it's all made up, and but I have to look at the overall picture, and I have to look at from the higher perspective that we all know we are, and so it's like no matter what happens, you can't freak out. You can't get caught. Hey, what's up? Long time no see. Oh, you're in your backyard. But it's like we can't get caught up. I mean, we can, but I think we're getting tired of these loops. I think we're getting tired of going through the same patterns and behaviors, and consequences.
And that's exactly what I mean by we're no longer in Kansas. It's like all these cycles are finally and firmly breaking down and shutting off, and it's just like all of the oh, I need to put myself back on the camera. All of the things that we've gone through, this is the part where we get to have our cake and eat it too. And this is like the most decadent cake with the most rich frosting with all the fruit you could think of on top, and that's just like the first course.
Yeah. It's like we're dipping our toe or big toe in the pool before we jump
Yeah.
in. We just got the
Mm-hmm.
big toe in. Yeah. And you had I mean, we'll talk about that later, but I mean,
Yeah.
one thing that's been happening and we've been talking about on the show, and actually everyone's aware of it. I mean, I would say for certain the last few months, certainly the the 4 months of this year, people are getting the same downloads.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at some of the people that do the kind of the state of the ascension type posts, Sandra Walter, Franco D. Nicola, Jason Estes, Amanda Lawrence, and
Mm-hmm.
so on and so on. There's quite a few people. Their intel is just, it's the same. It's the same, but it's just said in a different way from each person.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also in the sequential unrolling or the unfoldment, the sequential unfoldment for each one of us, there's these synchronicities that are way past numbers now. They're they're like, animals, they're people calling you, they're people having dreams that are similar. There's all kinds of stuff that's lining up. And that's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you know what? The way I look at it, okay, you got the mainstream media, you got the alt news, you got the other one, which will, let's just say, light worker community, but we're not talking about this. To me, this is what we need to be talking about, not because we need to be doing anything, but because it's lighting us up, it's contagious, and somehow, some way, when we share code with each other, which is really just sharing our experiences,
Mm-hmm.
we expand. I get
Mm-hmm.
what I need from you, you get what you need from me, and it just
Mm-hmm.
starts growing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like it takes all the thought process out of it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I think that sums it up pretty nicely. I think I would also add, when we have like vivid dreams and other intel in that way that comes through our senses, I think that as we're internally decoding that and sharing it where appropriate, I think that's also helping us key into, where we can focus, restoring the lights to places that, maybe we hadn't thought or considered before, or maybe we have. It was just time to go there and actually do it. So why don't we get into the dream that we each had,
Yeah,
and so I'll just share the dream that I had, that
yeah,
Denise had a part of, you had a part of, Morgan and Yvonne also have a part of. At least for my part of it, it's like the dream took place in like this swimming pool, like this big lagoon, and there was quite a few people in there. All of them were Sology family, and it was crowded, but by no means were we like shoulder to shoulder. There was plenty of room. We were all just having a great time. It was bright and sunny out, and the sky was golden, and all sorts of iridescent hues flying everywhere. And I'm just walking through the pool, smiling at people, and I'm noticing that each of us have like this. It looks like a halo over our heads, and there's like these baubles that look like those lead crystals that you can shine light through and it refracts the light.
yeah,
And they were all each of different size and different color, and um, as I'm walking around, I'm just seeing like there's like light codes coming through these bubbles and going into like my head, going into my body somewhere, and I'm just walking around and I just feel like there's someone watching me. I look around and I see you, and you're not looking at me, but you're reaching out telepathically, and you're talking with an Arcturian who is actually one of your fractal counterparts, and there's one that like a big halo around where you're at, and that's where most of the people are congregated, is around you. And I just feel you reach out, and I feel like a tingling in my heart, kind of like, yes. So we've got this central nexus point, which is you, Todd, And it's like you're sending out these activation codes to others who are also a central nexus point for all of us light workers, star seeds, to get together and begin weaving the physical manifestation of the new earth. And I'm just oh, I'm just feeling more strongly now as I'm talking about it. And I'm just like, yeah, right on. That's cool. I can feel this activating. And then Sienna Evelyn walks by, and she's just like, also just like in this total joy space looking around. I'm just like, hey, Sienna. And I take one of these baubles, and we do like the Wonder Twin Powers activate thing with it. And and so I feel like the piece of the puzzle that I carry through this dream is like, coming from like an elemental perspective, like the water element,
Yeah.
like how the water is going to get into like the little cracks and begin to nurture things and begin to open things up to flow. And and so this may be jumping ahead a bit, but I'm simply prompted to mention this now at this point, since we now have like a basis of how this is actually just a foundation of the work that Denise and I did earlier today, where okay, so these halos are actually like Arcturian technology, like filling us up with the light codes in specific frequency bandwidths and colors and sound frequencies. And so where this took me today, and I know this is like going to be unfolding for a few days at least, was like right into like the nucleus of a proton or a neutron, where the subatomic makeup of those is actually just an energy field that interacts with the quantum field and the source field.
Yeah.
And in these places we were seeing like minute fissures in the space-time continuum, and this wave that we did was effectively sealing up those fissures in the space-time continuum. So all of this repeating time loop Groundhog Day bullshit that we're done with
Yeah.
can no longer happen. It's all closed off. And so our immune systems at this point are just kind of cleaning up and integrating our light that was being siphoned off through these fissures.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. And yeah, I'm going to make a couple of notes because I want to come back to what you just said on a couple of different points. Let me just write them down now. One and okay. So so I'm not sure when this happened to you because we're on different sides of the globe.
Okay.
So I'm going to go off my timeline or my linear timeline, although we know the linear is leaving very rapidly. That's another big subject.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been 2 nights ago. I had done some shows. So it would have been Friday night, and I had done some shows all day, all week. It was a big week. And I was like, ready to just chill. And so we were sitting in the back patio. Well, no, I'm sorry. No, we got through the shows. I went inside. Morgan was doing a session. She came inside. She said, "What's going on?" I said, I feel restless." She said, "Me too." And we're like, "What the hell is this?" So we end up going outside, sitting on the back patio, and then this big storm comes in, kind of like a mini tornado, man. It just started going nuts. And we're
Wow.
like, okay, something's going on. And I said, I feel like a spaceship is going to land, and she's like, well, if a spaceship landed, it's so weird right now. I wouldn't even be fazed by it, And so then we thought, well, then we talked to Yvonnya. She sent a message to Morgan, and she said she got this vision of a elliptical ship that was horizontal in the air. I believe there was people, around, kind of the same similar type of thing. And then it flipped vertically, and then something was going on. And I can't remember all the details because I'm trying to remember everything I've got to add to this.
Mm-hmm.
So then we sat down to watch a movie because that's what we'll do sometimes, just to process stuff. So we get our mind off of it. And it never fails that the movie's always, it may take a day or two, but it's always got some kind of correlation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called The Arrival. I'd highly
Oh
recommend
yes.
it. We're going to watch it
Mm-hmm.
again tonight. And so we start watching this movie, and it's got this elliptical ship that
Egg-shaped ship, yeah.
vertical, and we only made about 20-25 minutes of the movie. That's all we could do. We were done, you know. So that came up, and that's not a coincidence because there's not any coincidence. I'm probably leaving something out. In fact, I am. Morgan started anchoring something really, really intense, like physically on the body, like
Mhm,
huge. And I'll let her elaborate on it. I don't want to get into it, but it was huge. And I've been with her when she's anchored stuff in before, kind of like pre-collective, pre the energy actually hitting. And so anyway, it started, and right when it was starting, she ended up having to lay in bed, and I had to put hands on her, and I mean, we had just a bunch of stuff going on. Another friend calls and starts talking to me, and the long story short, there was like this, I don't know, this sacred geometric pattern of all these people involved, and it ended up going to this point where Morgan's laying on the bed, and just, I mean, it was very, very intense. And I remember telling her, I don't know why I'm saying this, but you're doing this for the collective. And, it was her lungs and her breathing
mhm,
with what's going on. I mean, it was very, very, very intense. And, and I said, in the morning when you wake up, you're going to be clear. And so
mhm,
sure enough, she wakes up that morning, she's clear, totally
mhm,
clear after 2 or 3 days of this. Denise Chadwick sends me a message telling me, you were in this dream last night. There was a bunch of people, the dream because she told you about it.
mhm.
Same thing, spaceship, same thing. And then she tells me, oh, and did too. And then you send me that 7 minute, 22-second audio. And I'm just like, I'm almost in tears because I can't really explain it in human words, but the frequencies, the alignment was so spot on that I was just like shaking. I mean, it was just like, whoa, something big's going on. The last part I'd add to it is I talked to the beloved sister that's created the space for us these past couple of months, and she's in another state. And I said, I talked to her a while ago. I said, how the last 3-4 days gone? Same thing, same type of thing. And really the final piece of it, I think, is what she's saying, what I just described, what a lot of people are experiencing. There's this alignment, there's this connection, there's like a carryover from dream state and dimension that's starting to sustain itself in our
Mhm,
conscious memory. And it's not so much the details, but it's the code that comes with it. This is just my
mhm.
opinion. It's my opinion, but she said the same thing. And that's pretty much all the people that I've really connected with. But it seems to be like everything's fallen in place.
Mhm,
I mean, like to the nth degree, meta falling in place.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that. That's all in line with what I'm seeing internally.
Yeah. Well, this show's going to be longer than this. I'm just kidding you. So, so one of the things that I really would like to get your opinion on, because, and I just want to, for people that haven't caught Om before, Om is Om. I mean, he's very sensitive. He's got a particular affinity, and not that he doesn't have strong connections everywhere, but with elementals, which have been a
Mhm,
big, big deal. Including the water, including the animals and such lately. And so, given that that pedigree, one of the things I've been watching is, and I've been pretty frank about it, has been the whole Q movement and
mhm.
the kind of the savior based programming. And I've caught a little flack for it, not too much, because I'm not saying that, hey, it's the wrong path. I'm just saying, be careful, don't give your power away.
Yeah,
But
wise.
it's see, but you, to me, would be the perfect person to ask, where do you stand? I mean, we know where we kind of, I think we've all done a pretty good job with the coronavirus thing.
Mhm.
Not to get into the fear-based programming, although there's a lot of toilet paper being purchased and a lot of masks. But as Morgan says, maybe God ordered everybody to go buy toilet paper so they could look at their own shit. Welcome to the ascension.
There
But
you go.
but then there's the other end of it. Like, there seems to me, and I could be wrong, it's just my opinion, I want to get yours. it would seem to me that, you know, getting too caught up in any narrative, whether it be fear-based programming, savior-based programming, whatever, relationship, whatever, is old school. That's an old loop. And no matter
Uh-huh.
how great it looks, and maybe it's all going to align, and maybe it's all true. And I'm not saying it's not. Believe me, I'm rooting for it because I'd like to get over the pain and suffering. Everybody eat every day and everything be cool. But it just seems a little bit weird to me that so many people in our community, and I'm not knocking anybody, I'm just making a point, are
Mhm.
getting over identifying with it, getting too gung ho with it, because this is about oneness. There is no separation.
Mhm.
But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, with so many people in quarantine, it means that there aren't a lot of people like out and about at the moment. And so I strongly feel in line with the idea that this whole Wuhan cooties experience is just simply getting everyone to look at their own shit. And I think that Morgan is spot on with what she said there. And more to the point, it's like so much of what was once accessible is no longer accessible, and
Mm,
that's because it's like the changing of the stage dressing. It's like people can't be there because it's not actually in physical existence anymore. It's changing over, and so the this is Gaia's time to shift things around so that when this experience has served its purpose and we move on from it, it's like we're in a very new physical space. And this is also like the the splitting of the world. So there's still quite a few out there whose soul growth and soul experience still needs more 3D type experiences, although with far less contrast than what we've just gone through. And so like the stage is being set for them, and the stage is also set for all of us who are ready to um, go back home, become more of their whole selves within their human vessel, or otherwise just exist in a world that is more about finding the joy in everything, and learning and growing from expressing joy once again. And as far as like the Q movement, I think that there's a lot of good coming from that. Just like, okay, so there's this going on. Go research this. Go find out, dig this out, and become more educated as to what's going on. As far as the savior meme, I don't see what people are talking about, because I just see him encouraging people to think for themselves and do their own research and make up their own
yeah,
mind about things.
yeah,
And I think that there's coming a point where it's like two and two is going to be put together. We're going to make the number five,
yeah,
and everyone's going to just suddenly get on the same page, despite whatever political or ideological differences, and be like, okay, yeah, we're done with being oppressed. We're done being murdered. We're done, being wage slaves. Da 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 da, and we're taking back our power. There's no alternative. I mean, it's
yeah,
just that's just how the energies are lining up for such a manifestation.
yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
like that part of the movement. I've always been a revolutionary mentality, rebel, whatever, outlaw,
mm-hmm.
whatever. But the part I'm looking at, it's not about what's going to be disclosed, but it's about how are we going to respond to what's disclosed. Like,
Yes.
like if we're really, and I believe we are, at least having the opportunity and the availability to bring, and energetically heaven to earth, that means we got to walk the talk.
Yep.
That means like it's not 99% compassion or 90% compassion. It's 100% identification with our, for lack of a better way to describe it, our higher aspects. Because the human, it's becoming very obvious, is the same, is on the same level, but we've got to embody it. So that's the only thing I really look at is like, if the shift hits the fan, is there going to be a bunch of vigilante groups and a bunch of crazy shit going on, and I told you so's, and they're bad and we're good kind of stuff going on? Because this is the loop that we've all been in,
Hmm.
you know, with many loops within the big loop, which has been opposition,
Hmm.
opposition control, propaganda. I mean, the whole nine yards, where it just gets so convoluted in the finite part of our experience that we can't even find the infinite part of it, which we found now. How do we
Hmm.
stay there? Where do you think we need to put our focus given everything that's happening?
Well, the thing of it is that all of the programming that this um, intensity of contrast has done, it's not going to be broken overnight. Yet this process is moving forward nonetheless. So you know what you're talking about with the "I told you so's" and people coming off like that. Sure, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that there's also such a thing as divine grace, and the more we're focusing on, we as those who are transcending such thought processes and whatnot, the more that we're focusing on the divine grace and the divine mercy and the divine compassion that brings everyone together. So compassion leading to unity. I really feel like that would be the most beneficial thing that we can do in this particular arena.
Yeah. 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 Right on with that. So I guess it's, you know, it's, and there seems to be another thing kind of unfolding too, and that's that, of course, with the quarantine and everything that's happened with it, it's really energetically supporting everybody with the isolation and being secluded with people that you have lived with but haven't really talked to, or maybe you've got stuff you need to work out with, and you know,
Hmm.
all the stuff that goes with it is really energetically supporting us, even though on the physical part of it some people may, you know, find it to be uncomfortable. But there, it seems to be a lot less freaking out than I thought there would have been. You know, even from the first part, you know, a lot of people putting out the toilet paper memes and all that stuff. That was kind of funny. And but it's like, you know, it's like, I don't know. It's to me, with everything that we've been through in all of our incarnations or in the history of the last few thousand years, you would think people would be, you know, pitching a fit, raising hell. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of that, especially interesting when you consider the impact that this whole thing has had on cash flow and
Well,
so many people in the world being hand to mouth, including America.
this is the thing of it all. And yeah, I've also noted the same thing. It's like, yeah, people are more tending to be kind and compassionate and in humor about this. And yeah, there's also those out there who are just like, well, this is all of our rights being taken away, and this is how shit's gonna go down, blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, that's just the program running out. The point I'm making is that, um, and we're talking, from soul energy, that every single being on this planet, including those that are, deeply entrenched in the contrast, we're all done with this. We're all tired
Yeah.
of playing this out. And so a lot of this, like, nine over 90% of it's of like all the calm and peace that's going on, and people coming together and treating each other um, with respect and love. It's coming because our souls are just like,
Yeah.
we're ready for something else, and we are giving ourselves that reprieve, that release from all of this heaviness, this burden.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like, and I like what you say, because, you know, well, because of what I do, you know, every day here like this, I obviously got to talk about certain subjects, and this is what we do. You know, we
Hmm.
have conversations. But I love what you say, because they're, well, the way I would kind of like summarize it is, we're past the tipping point. The hundredth monkey has occurred.
Yep. Hmm.
You know, it's over 51%, whatever you want to call it. And no matter how much angst we might have, or how much we might over identify with fear-based programming or savior-based programming or this movement or that virus, it doesn't matter. This shit's going down. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And to me, it's like the the biggest challenge, and I've been saying this for months, is it, and I'm not saying it's gospel, but it seems like to me the biggest challenge is getting used to it, like getting used to the way this
Exactly,
thing works, right?
exactly. That is our challenge moving forward, since we are moving into a world that's based on joy and being as children once again. For us, having gone through what we just have, it's going to take some time to adjust, and it is going to be a challenge for us to reboot those parts of ourselves, resurrect those parts of ourselves that haven't been able to come out and play for, well, however long this has been going on.
Mm,
And I really feel like, this is where you mentioned my connections with the elemental kingdom, the Sasquatch. And
mm,
well, I'm gonna just put this tree on camera because this tree is actually a portal into several realms.
wow.
And and so the gist of it is that as we are all shifting around within our own spaces and embodying more of these high frequency codes and energy and light that we actually are, we're going to find that all of the problems that our mind seems to think that are going to be a problem or a hitch moving forward are going to dissolve with the utmost of grace and ease.
Yeah.
And that also is going to require us to become accustomed to things happening so easily, and also let go of the idea that some punishment or like a tit for tat's going to happen
Mm,
and take it away from us. That's not what we're stepping into, because our souls and also we as our humans, so there's like a full complete direct alignment with our personal will and sovereignty, with divine will coming through our soul to be done with this and begin creating in the new. And everyone's soul expression, however it is that they're going to benefit and grow in these energies, it's going to happen. And the resistance of the mind is simply going to be revealed for what it is. Even to those that are quote unquote the most asleep,
mm,
are also on some level going to become more aware of this and recognize that there's choices in everything, and the choices that they've been made aware of aren't necessarily all that's on the plate, nor necessarily to their benefit.
yeah. Yeah, and I think the way things are going too, with some of the consequences of the situation, globally, and I'm talking about the impact on the educational system, the financial system, the social system. Um, there's a lot of stuff going away. That, well, at a minimum, it's never going to go back to the way it was,
Hmm.
and at the other end of it, there's a lot of stuff going away that's not going to come back. This is a huge common denominator really in every single household in the world. It's
Hmm.
like okay, well, the world has changed, and at some level, uh I think, to what you're saying, and to what a couple of people have said, in regard to the energy that's been made available the last few days, is that it affects everybody. So from a
Yes.
spiritual perspective, if you want to call it that, or even a religious perspective, they look at the circumstances. I mean, look, all the sacred books have prophesized this time. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, you'd almost have to be living in a cave not to, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's
Well,
like that impact is going to make people, well, it would make sense that that would cross their mind. It's just not business as usual. Hey, my job opened up again. I'm going back to work 8 to 5. There's there's something that we've done as an entire Earth population.
yeah,
We can't go back. We're
yeah.
not going back. There's no way.
So that brings me to something else that I've been prompted to mention uh, during this love stream. And we could consider a shifting of priorities, if priorities is the correct word. And so, us as Starseed volunteers have come in to assist humanity in transmuting and restoring to light um, all of this contrast, darkness, whatever you want to call it. And it's been shifting, and even more pronouncedly over the past couple days, to where that's no longer for most of us volunteers or people that Source has asked to come here, however it is that we ended up here along those lines, it's like our priority is shifting to more what is in alignment to what brings our soul joy, what makes our soul feel fulfilled and
Hmm.
satisfied. And just as an example, like for me, it's like whatever my path forward is, it's going to be working more directly with Gaia, uh, with within the nature realms, and just helping those places become the lush paradise that they were originally sacredly intended to be. And it's like, yeah, there's still going to be like some help to humanity. And by no means am I saying it's like, oh yeah, we're done with that and you guys are on your own, tough shit. No, no, not at all. It's just like, yeah, you guys are strong enough to deal and tackle with what you guys have created. Our part in helping with that is by and large done. Yes, there are some of us that still have that mandate and soul desire to continue to help with that. And the work that we're doing that brings our soul this satisfaction, this fulfillment, this full, joyful, delightful expression will benefit humanity anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, and that's what I didn't finish that thought earlier, but the other thing I was going to say is what's becoming apparent is that there, I never really bought into, you know, there's 144,000 or there's, a very small minority. Not that I was opposed to it, but I was like, just don't get attached to it. But
Hmm.
there seems to me now, and I'm picking this up from my own experience shared with Morgan and then the work that I do and observing in the community, that the time is coming that we're going to be put to work.
Hmm.
And there's a vast majority out there that's going to be looking for tools
Hmm.
and modalities, processes, people. They're going to be going to all the crazy people and asking them, why aren't you freaking out? But I think a lot of this work has actually been done. There's a
Yep.
lot of archival data, code, in the form of electronic files or storage, Facebook, YouTube, social media, people's websites, that I think it's going to be put to use, um, and I think that's going to be a big part of this. The other thing I want to say too is I'm starting to look at the global part of it and go, don't get caught up in the story, because I'm telling myself that more than anything. Don't get caught up in the story.
Hmm.
But what I do appreciate about it is if I can take everything out, because we know that this is not a personal journey. It is personal and solitary, but it don't take things personal. And the
Yep.
same goes for, anything on the global stage that might, rub you the wrong way. But I can really appreciate what's happening on the global level because it is a physical representation of what's happening inside of us. And that
Hmm.
is all the shit's coming to the surface. A more judicious, balanced, energetic field, self responsibility, sovereignty.
Hmm. And also just the restoration of what it means to actually be family, what it means to actually
Mm.
be tribe and community, and what it means to, as a planet, reach out to the stars and find that we have long lost siblings and other tribe and community members just waiting for us and greeting us with open arms and open love. And I think that all the pieces to put this puzzle piece that is planet Earth back together, um yeah, it's just all coming together very beautifully, very smoothly. And I think in addition to focusing on like the divine qualities and the divine definitions, all of that of like grace and mercy and compassion, it's also about channeling that through our sovereignty so that we're making these solid like eons lasting unbreakable connections with one another that are wholly based in love and trust and mutual respect and mutual benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like if it's not, if it's, and this is another thing that's becoming apparent too, which is a little painful for people, me included, on an individual level, but also on a group level. And that is, if there's an agenda, old school agenda, service to self in the old vernacular, not in the
Mhm.
new one. If it's not, 100% integrity, and if it's not constructed with, let's just say, new thought forms, as in the type of frequency that we've downloaded and embodied, this energy, this new energy on the earth is not going to support it. And it's not going to support a relationship. It's not going to support a business. If there's the old, dregs of the 3D patriarchal paradigm in it, it's just not going to last. And I'm seeing that happen all over the place.
Yeah, yeah, like literally we've just upgraded from like Windows into uh some operating system that is nothing like the old, yet it's ancient in space, yet updated to like every all the coding. So we're talking about coding in another sense where um it's all integrated into this new operating system, as it were.
Mm.
So we're able to just focus entirely on what's going to bring everybody joy and not have to worry about, all the things that you just mentioned. And whatever comes up in the process, it's like, instead of just being like, oh, she's a witch, and
Hmm.
she's just doing this, that, the other thing. It's just like, oh yeah, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. You might want to take care of that. But
Mm.
I just saw this, and I hope this helps you out. And then it gets taken care of right then and there in complete and total kindness.
Yeah. Yeah, almost like those, and I've experienced that. Now, this would go back about 3 or 4 weeks ago, where old loops, old thought patterns would come in, let's say lower vibrational, and they just wouldn't stick. They'd be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
what are you doing here?" And they'd be gone. I think that's kind of indicative of what's going to happen. Back to what you were saying earlier, we're past the tipping point. It's going down. You can fight it, but it's not. It's kind of a futile thing. It's just not going to
You
happen.
can't stop an avalanche.
No, it's done. One of the things that I did leave out, um, about the sequence of synchronicities that we opened the show about. In your dream, that was an Arcturian that Morgan and I were speaking to, or that we were all speaking to,
Hmm.
and kind of alluded that that was probably an Arcturian ship. Now, I don't get too caught up in those types of narratives, but one thing I will point out is there's been one, two, and I would count this as three times that the Arcturian frequency has come in to the field, in our field over here, and kind of in the Solji field, and there's been like an uptick, like a level up,
Hmm.
a big one though, like a really big one.
Hmm.
And so that kind of resonates, when I heard that on your audio. But then I started thinking about it, and since the equinox, I walk in this backyard over here, and I would say probably 10, 12 times over what, say a 3 or 4 week period, I'll walk out there and Arcturus is lit,
Oh
looking
wow.
right at me. And I remember, I think it was the night of the equinox or the night after, Morgan went to bed, and I was feeling it. So I built a fire, took my clothes off, and was dancing naked around the fire. And Arcturus was
Sweet.
there the whole time. And I was like, hey, talk to me. I can't remember all the details, but there was an exchange. So that
Hmm.
was kind of significant. The other thing that was significant that I forgot to tell you was, so the morning after, when I found out about your audio and Denise and everything started coming together, I had a huge download, and I think we had laid down for a nap or something. I can't remember because I get my days mixed up, but I believe it was yesterday. And what ended up happening was I got out of bed to write down part of the download, but the main part of the download just kind of was sitting there, and I started to just do what we do. I got online and I started watching video production by Robert Sepper at Atlantean Gardens, who's incredible.
Hmm.
And it was called The Fall of Lucifer, but it was 28 minutes, but the gist of it for me was all about the goddess. It was talking about how going back to every civilization, back to the Ice Age, was founded on the goddess. When I say the goddess, what I'm talking about is or let's say the conceptual understanding. We'll just leave it that way to make it objective. That the goddess is the energy. That the Helioscamos, Magdalene's relationship to Jesus, that
Hmm.
that's what it was. And between Robert Sepper's video and Franco Di Nicola's session yesterday, the one he's been doing that series, I just happened to tune in, and he was talking about pretty much the same thing, but he wasn't using the same language. He was talking about how the whole thing was set up. And if you've ever listened to him, you'll know what I'm talking about. So what I got out of it was, verbatim, was that the biggest disclosure of disclosures in this whole thing is going to be that element of the suppression of the divine feminine and all the things that energy brings to the table for all of us, and
Hmm.
obviously for the world. So for that to occur the morning after and during this whole sequence of events where several people were involved, I thought was pretty significant. So I thought I'd mention it.
Oh, yeah. It's just everything is coming together, and I'm prompted to just mention this as well. So, you're talking about a more, I guess we could say, more direct, potent connection with some of the star beings. You're talking about the Arcturians. We're talking about that. It's like we've reached a certain point where certain restrictions that the more benevolent extraterrestrial beings have had to live with or live under, whatever. The prime directive, if we're going to pull something out of Star Trek, we've reached a point where a lot of those restrictions no longer apply, so they're able to have more direct, more surreal contact with us, and help us with, in a more broader sense than what they've been able to in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Two things seem to be happening, which is how everything seems to always go. It's kind of paradoxical. Um, One is what you just said, and two, some of the people I've talked to, and in my own experience, it seems to be coming from us more than us, like, say, shooting up into dimension and going to a meeting. I don't know if they're coming here, so to speak, or if we're meeting halfway, or maybe the Earth's rays. But it seems like the voices and the guides that we've received pretty much as a whole are starting to take more of a singular voice, you know. So it's like,
Yes.
and I
Can
remember,
I cut in real quick?
yeah, you're with me on that, yeah.
So just like a few pieces just clicked into place here. So uh the beginning of this is like, so Earth, Gaia, has been restored to her proper place and in the heavens. And so it's like, of course they're able to come through more clearly, because there's no longer like a dimensional barrier or barriers that they have to traverse to contact us. And it's also that with Earth clicking into place and all the alignments coming, all the energy conduits, connections, everything coming back into the proper place and balance and configuration, that communication is becoming a lot more transparent and direct, rather than, okay, so we got to go to A to Z to G to D to D to D to get to point B, which would be the contact. And the other thing of that is, and maybe it will come back. Like, mm, it's gone. It will come back if it's
It's
important.
all right. That's that 3D memory leaving us.
Yeah,
Um,
really, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the part that but yeah, I'm just naturally inquisitive. So I think,
Mhm.
well, how's this going to roll, you know? And that's why I try to keep myself out of any narrative, because I'm thinking, oh, our spaceship's going to land, and
Yes.
and I'm like,
Yes.
okay, but I've told this a couple times on a couple of shows, but I remember after a series of elevations Morgan and I had over, say, like a 10-day period. This is back 2 or 3 months ago, and I remember getting up one morning thinking I was all, clever and empowered, and walking in Christ consciousness, not 24/7. And I said to her, "Hey, we've been going through a lot of stuff, and I bet we're going to start really seeing stuff even more than we have been in the bedroom at night when we put our hands together. Like, instead of just an apparition that's translucent, we're going to actually see like a physical thing, like, you and me physically." She said, "I don't think so." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "It's not, it's us. we're
Yep.
we're embodying this now, and we're the ones that we're going to be seeing, basically. In
Yep.
other words, people are going to see it in us, we're going to see it in other people."
Hmm.
And this is and when she said that, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, that's really the result of doing the work that we've done and walking the talk, really. I mean, you
Hmm.
can't be a God in the flesh, goddess in the flesh, if you're still, throwing up prayers, you know what I mean, to something outside
Hmm.
of yourself. Yeah.
Well, I'm still just connecting what I was just saying to what what well, it's going to come through. Um,
Take your time.
that's it. Okay. So, what I was talking about earlier about Denise and I doing the weaving work necessary to close out these fissures in the space-time continuum. It's like that was generating so much interference to, just simple, direct telepathic communication with ourselves that are outside of ourselves, that with these fissures now closing, because we now have the codes, we have the antivirus program, as it were, to effectively deal with that. It's also going to become a lot easier for us to have these experiences and have them in a much more surreal way, to the point where it's like we'll literally see these different versions of ourselves
Yeah.
outside of ourselves um, whenever that's meant to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, like, in our case, and I know a lot of other people, you know, the the experiences that we've had dimensionally, that kind of take place in the physical. These aspects that have come to us they're us.
Hmm.
I mean, you said a minute ago that it was like an Arcturian aspect that you saw in the dream that I was talking to. And I can remember one time we had some star family come in a couple of years ago, and one Alpha Centaurian and one Syrian stepped into my body, you know,
Oh wow.
and yeah, they came up behind me and they stepped into me, as we're sitting, kneeling on the bed, looking at each other as we were instructed and guided to do. But later on, I found out. In fact, I found out when the Arcturians. I was in a hotel room, and the Arcturians came into the room and said, "We need to talk to you about this 5D commerce thing." And at that time, I was shown that those two aspects were actually my aspects that had
Hmm.
stepped into me, and I
Hmm.
guess I had reached across some threshold, and they were now to be embodied. Yeah.
Well, isn't that just so saying about, the true and actual nature of humans? I mean, my feeling about it has been always that we're living libraries. So
Mm,
why wouldn't other parts of our soul be able to step in and interact with this environment through these bodies,
yeah.
uh, in addition to, or at times even outright supplanting the part of our soul that primarily inhabits these bodies. And it's not limited to just our star family, that's going to be us showing up first and foremost to meet ourselves. uh, eh, for the most part, when I've had contact with the Sasquatch or the elves or the gnomes or the dwarves or the fairies or the dryads, or anything that you can think of and name, it's always been an aspect of me presenting
Yeah.
myself to me first.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big deal. And then that movie that we were talking about earlier, The Arrival.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we ended up watching it. We couldn't watch it the first night when all that stuff was going down. So we watched it last night, and we got out of it and we went in the back to have a review and just talk a little bit about the movie. And I remembered this YouTube channel. It's called um, like Times of Old, I think, like Times of Old. It's this dude, and he reviews and talks about different movies from a metaphysical standpoint. So just by chance, I looked it up to see if he'd done The Arrival, and he had, and it was very interesting. Like Times of Old is the name of it. But anyway, what I was getting at is in that movie, she's actually, because the linear time whole thing kind of gets imploded, at least for her to start with. And so basically she sees the future and has knowledge of the future. And I guess what we were getting out of it last night, one of the things we were getting out of it was because I mean, Morgan's been doing it for years, and a lot of people like her, engaging your future self, and
Hmm.
so on. Uh, but that's actually becoming clearer and clearer. There's more clarity. There's more sustainability to it, where we're actually going to have this information from these aspects that we've been interacting with, as well as, like you said, it's a library. So being able to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for today. Where do I need to plug in? But I think that part of it is, and we've talked about this for years. People have talked about, oh, we're going to be
Hmm.
multidimensional, have our memories intact, and just a little bit of that, just say 5%, 10% shot of that, which we probably already had, would make a huge impact on the world.
Well, and this too, what just shifted. So, um, the concept of like the demonic possession, or like ultra terrestrial beings coming in and possessing somebody's body and doing blah 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 blah. Um, if with these time space fissures closing, it's like our souls have a unique quantum signature, and these bodies, in their sacred design, are encoded only to accept input and commands, as it were, from that specific quantum signature that's encoded into the DNA. And that failsafe has just kicked back online, and so it's going to be a lot easier for us to manage having like a Syrian aspect of us or a crow aspect or whatever come in and start talking through us without
Mm,
it like freaking us out, like, oh my god, it's like this demon thing, when really it's just us, and
yeah,
it can only be us at this point.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm with you too. I think these things that we're talking about are built into us. So there's not going to be, at least from my point of view, there's not going to be the need for a bunch of explanation. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we think we got to,
Mm-hmm.
I got this download, I need to tell you about it to the nth degree. I think that this is innate, and there's codes been opened up. Now, Jason S has talked about a week ago during the same time period that this energy, this soul plan, soul journey, I can't remember, soul mission type of energy was made available to everybody, and everybody would
Mm-hmm.
feel it, even those that were
Mm-hmm.
not awake. Now, another thing that he said too that's kind of interesting is he talked about a disc. He talked about a disc, kind of like a chakra disc that was in between the first chakra out of the physical body,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I don't know the names of them, and then say the next one,
Okay.
and that it was
Okay, I
like,
see it.
a disc, like you were describing, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in your dream, in the in the
Yes.
in the same spot that he described it. So here we go again with the correlation of people's intel.
Wow.
Yeah,
Fucking fantastic. I love that so much.
yeah, yeah. So, it's, I'm excited. I'm really excited. We just, we're blessed today that we're going to be able to be here for the month of May. And
Yes.
so we're going to load the schedule up, and,
Nice.
maybe you and Jed and I can get back on again during the month and do what we did before. And
Let's do it.
yeah, and compare notes, because what I'm noticing is as the weeks go by, everything changes so drastically in a 5, 6, 7 days.
It's
It's like
true.
a whole new game. So we could talk. We're having this conversation now. 2 weeks now, we could be talking, and it's a whole different game. It's a whole different set of rules. If you want to put it
Well,
that way.
I'm just prompted to mention something I read that Amanda had posted
Mm.
recently, and she was just basically it was like a reminder that as these energy upgrades are coming in, it takes 3 full days for it to integrate fully into the body, and then what you're saying there just totally makes sense. So you've got those 3 days for it to integrate, and then another 3 days to have it like begin to actually shift the outer world, and the seventh day it's just like, oh well, there's the change.
Yeah,
And as our bodies are becoming more accustomed to these higher light frequencies, I can only see that time um, becoming less and less until it's just like, bam, like one day we'll just have something come in, it'll integrate, it'll come online, and the next day it's like completely shifted our outside world.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's to me, that's obvious to me. And again, I'm not saying I know everything, but I'm to me, it's like everything is speeding up, is sped up to a point now, and and everything parallels it. There's nothing that's like lagging behind. Everything, skills, abilities, memories, processing, integration, everything's like boom, 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 boom. And I think that it's becoming, like you said, it's so well, maybe not at 100% conscious level, but it is apparent in the field of more and more people without even have to talk about it. So, I'm with you. Now that I've talked to you, I like the fact that you said this stuff's kind of going down,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no. I think the work is done. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and getting caught up in the narratives for me has been a challenge, but I feel a lot stronger now, and just saying, you know what, it's not that stuff. It's me, right? It's just
Well,
me.
we're rediscovering what it means to be a human being. We're not
Yeah.
human doings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, man. I was taking this whole weekend off because I wanted to rest. I rested yesterday and most of today, but I can't think of a better show and a better guest to have than you on my day off. So I just want to say thank you very much, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
thank you for everything that you do. And like so many other people out there, many that are listening that have been doing this work, like you and Denise did today, and you and Jed do quite often, that do this stuff without any credit, any notoriety, but you do it. And there's people all over the world that have, and I think that's why we're where we're at. So thank you for that too.
It's our pleasure, and this is, to me, you hearing you say that. First of all, this has been a completely satisfying conversation. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you more often.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're absolutely correct. We're done doing the work. We're just experiencing the results of our labors, our fruits coming to fruition.
Yeah.
And if well,
I think he just blew up the internet. Wow. What a way to end a show. Jed, somebody reach out to him and tell him that I'm not oh, there he is. You just went into holy shiitake mushrooms, man. What the hell was that? Oh my God. This was another one of those Grace Solaris disappearing moments. That was trippy.
Yep.
You can't make this shift up, man. You take care, I'll see you this month. Coming in May. We'll reach out.
Lots
Okay.
of love, brother. Give Morgan my best too, please.
I will. Thank you for doing this on short notice, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. I'll